Good evening, everybody. I know that it looks like a relatively small crowd, but I'm really glad that you're here today. We wanted to sort of have a forum on safety because, again, there's nothing going on, and certainly Florida is the one that comes to mind most recently. But we had a shooting that was last week right up somebody in Michigan or something like that. Florida. Well, we had Florida, but we had Michigan, I think, last week. So, it looks like this isn't something that's going to stop happening anytime soon. So we thought it might be a good idea to talk to parents about this. And we're looking at this not as a one and done, but we're looking at this as something that we're going to do on a revolving basis because the situation is such that things change rapidly in terms of safety and the things that are going on. So before I get started, I would be remiss if I didn't certainly introduce the administrative staff team. So if I could, this is our principal, LVO Ferreira. Good evening. Our director of buildings and grounds, Mr. Glenn Benavides. And I'm going to actually have Mr. Benavides talk to you a little bit about our cameras here at the school. But I'll do that in a few minutes. We have our assistant principal. We have Mr. Andrew Rebello. We have the director of cooperative education, Mr. Kevin Rosado. We have behind the camera, Mrs. Lois Miller, Director of Guidance. We have our crisis counselor, Mrs. Michaela Hetzler. We have our Director of Special Education, Mrs. Deborah Chico. In the back, way in the back, we have our security personnel, that's Ms. Olga Baez. We have, of course, our school resource officer, and he's been with us, by the way, just so that you know. He's been with us for 16 years, and he's been on the force for 35. 36. I always rip him off a year, okay? School resource officer, James Ryder. So he's always very kind about letting me know when I missed that year, and I think I've covered everybody. This is our chief financial officer was here, but she left, and we also have the Lieutenant Bernier from the Florida Police Department, who's in charge of all the school resource officers. So Lieutenant Bernier would just give us a wave, and Sergeant Strong is accompanying him. We're going to talk about some of the things that are happening. And here is the Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Debbie Pacheco, walking down my Debbie, wave hi. Hi. Thank you. Okay, so a couple of things that we want to let you know that we did immediately. The first thing that we did when this shooting took place in Florida was we had to make changes, and some of the changes that we made were immediate. When you come into Diman Regional at the start of the day now, you're going to see somebody at the door that's greeting. Prior to that event that took place, we would buzz you in and then you would walk in. Our feeling administratively was that you needed to have somebody as a presence at that door. We're going to be talking to the school committee about making that a permanent position. We have some other things that we are going to do that we're going to hope to get financial support from the school committee. Some of the things we're going to share with you, some of them, quite frankly, we're not going to share with you. And the reason we're not going to share them with you is there's sort of that delicate balance between keeping parents informed, but at the same time, not letting the bad guys and bad girls know some of the important things that really could lead to some real catastrophes. If you remember from the stories that go back to Florida, the fire alarm was pulled, and then once the building was starting to evacuate, at that point, these poor students and staff were going to get picked off. That happened similarly in Paducah a number of years ago. So as we look at trying to open up the lines of communication, we want to walk that fine balance between letting parents know what goes on, but not so much that we let the bad people know. So we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit more, and we're going to hear from you, because I really need to hear from you. A couple of other things is that we've limited the public entrances to the school. There was a time where a lot of our doors were open. At this point, there were only two entrances that you could get in prior to the start of the school day. The main entrance, and that main entrance has a security person or an administrator or both at the front, and door 41, which of course is the student parking lot. Again, the door is not unlocked until we have an administrator at that door itself. So obviously this is to have sort of a presence at that area. Room 251, I don't know if you're familiar, we have a culinary arts program, and we have a restaurant that serves the public. During our service time, we have Ms. Baez at the door throughout the service, because again, we have the public coming in. And again, we normally know who's coming in because they make reservations. But we think it's still important if that door is going to be open that we have somebody there. one of the suggestions made this past day was for us to actually have people who are making the reservations tell us who is going with them. So rather than just say, party of two, Smith, we want to know who Smith is with. Because again, when they come in, we want to be able to identify them. It's just sort of another way to try and ramp up the security here. Doors are locked immediately after the start of the school day and remain locked. There was a time where, you would leave it open again, again, we have different areas that need access because we have a lot of purveyors coming during the school day. For example, automotive technology fixed 600 cars last year. When you fix the cars, you need parts. Those parts are delivered over to the school. The doors are still locked at this point. They have to report in to the main entrance before they go. We're looking at actually trying to control the perimeter a little bit and have somebody out there that would actually call in and say, okay, here comes the delivery person from such and such, and to even maximize security further. We've limited the time for deliveries. There was a time where people would just come in and deliver for the most part whenever they could. We're at a point where we've told them, look, 10:30 deliveries are over. And so again, security in a vocational school is significantly more challenging than a comprehensive school because of the fact that we are running a business in some cases. We're building meal houses, we're fixing meal AC units, and therefore we need to have these parts. So that is being obviously trying to control the flow of traffic as well. Hours training has been done, I believe, for all staff, Officer Riley?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, most of you are familiar with hours training. If you're not, don't be afraid to say, I don't know what hours training is about. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. We're going to continue to do that. Coordination of evacuation plans with the Fall River Police Department. Last year, Lieutenant Bernier and his staff did an absolutely exceptional job of assisting us with our first school-wide evacuation. We did it in October of 2016. So what came out of it? Well, there was a lot of good that came out of it, but one of the things that we were a little bit concerned about administratively was that it seemed like some of the people knew where we were going to have the intruder coming. And if the people know where the intruder is coming in, then it's not really a real drill. It is sort of a rote activity. Very much like when you went to school and the fire alarm went off. You just walk in and everybody walks in the same direction. At this point now, we're looking at things even like fire alarms and saying we've got to get our students and our teachers to think more proactively that the fire alarm, may be something different than a fire. So now you sort of think, rather than rush out of the building, maybe step out into the hallway first and see if there's any activity going on. Because again, we have to just think in a different way at this point. So we held off on doing the evacuation because we wanted to make sure that we tightened up some things from the last time. So we were planning on an evacuation really soon. I'll just leave it at that. And we had to change the date because the weather is not cooperating with us. So I can't tell you what the date of the evacuation was, but if you have a 5-day forecast, you can probably figure out when the evacuation was going to take place. So Lieutenant Bernier took cancel on that, and we're going to reschedule that. And we're going to reschedule it pretty soon, and I know it's going to be a little bit cold for people, but cold and safe is better than unsafe. So now a lot of parents have asked questions about, well, where is the rallying point? Where is the rallying point the students are going to go? We're not comfortable with telling parents right now where the rallying point is. Again, if you don't want to disclose to the bathroom where 1,700 people are going to be. Because if you disclose that, you're prime target. Remember, and again, I can't speak to this, I'm not a police officer, but most times in a school shooting, you're looking for maximum fatalities.
Should have one or multiple rallying points.
Right now, we have one rallying point off campus. When we do our drill, we do not go to that rallying point. We do something, closer to the school.
Just taking the 1,700 students in one area is a lot.
It is, but we got a really great area, and it's relatively close, and we're very grateful to the individual to allow us to use this property. Because I got to tell you, we struggled with the rallying point, so. But again, we've got a place that is away from the campus because, again, we got to get people away from the campus.
I live a couple fluctuate more and more confuse my problem.
Well, listen, Mr. Ferrero, let's get that address down, okay? Maybe we can even get our lunch at the same time, who knows? So, really important, and I think something that makes parents feel a lot safer than it should is the camera system that we have here. A lot of parents don't realize. The district spent $250,000, Mr. Benavides? $250,000 on the camera system here. And Glenn, do you mind just having a couple of words about our camera system?
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Our camera system, we have an excess of 65 cameras. We have 100% coverage in both the grounds and in the building, the roofs, tops, and so on and so forth. It's digitally recorded, and we can save recordings anywhere from 30 to 60 days. It is quite an investment made for the safety of our family. And we're growing and continues to grow and integrated with the alarm system and all systems throughout the school.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions about the camera system? I will tell you that we continue to look at it and try and find areas where it could perform better, and we make the adjustments accordingly. So
There's no
again,
blind spots or nothing like that?
I'm sorry?
There's no blind spots?
you've always, how many cameras do we have? 60, Glenn?
We have over 60 plus cameras, and a lot of them are quad cameras. But yes, there are some blind spots, obviously, and we adjust the cameras, both putting additional cameras where we think that there may be a problem in that blind spot. But yes, there are some.
And I don't think we're going to get away from that, but we're really trying to look hard at particular areas and limit. For example, the cafeteria is an area where we really don't want to have a blind spot, because quite frankly, again, after the Columbine shooting, it's clear that the cafeteria is usually a prime target place for many of these people that want to come into Diman. So the cafeteria actually has very good coverage, and we see it on a regular basis, because when there's some aberrant behavior sometimes, we go to the cameras to find out who the transgressor is, and we act accordingly. So, but again, it's something that we're constantly looking at. Yes, Ms. Thomas?
I'm wondering if there's any feasibility to having the camera system remote access by the Florida Police Department.
It's amazing that you were reading my mind just now, because in speaking with Chief Dupere, probably 4 weeks ago, we put into place, or into motion, if you will, that they are going to remote. During a crisis, they will be able to take over our cameras. And we think that's a huge advantage, not only for our safety, but for the first responders who have to come in and find out where that is. So that's going to be happening. Also, when do you think that will be?
Mr. McCann and my sergeant will be meeting next week. He's on vacation this week, so it'll be next week.
How dare you take time off? So again, this is going to be happening probably by the end of the month. We're hoping that we have this all set, because again, it's a huge advantage for the first responders. And it's a very good question. If you could put 6 numbers together, we could make some money over here right now. I'm just saying, you know. And that's about all I have as far as, anything that we've done. I'm going to really talk to you about some of the questions that you may have, and that's why this is where right now has,
You can't read the picture, but I know what that's.
So, Mr. Ferrer, you want to share with us a little bit? Anything I've missed?
You did an unbelievably comprehensive job, but I just want to echo the words of the superintendent. We've made a remarkable approach to a campus that has 48 doors, many of them accessed during the day. I don't know if your children have spoken to you, we've completely shut off the main foyer as far as student access between 7:45 and 2:30. We know that's now the main choke place for any visitor that's going to come in. We seem to restrict it to the best of our ability at this point, access from the main foyer up to the second floor. No child is allowed in that area during the day. We've rerouted all traffic for the gym, anything on the second floor. That way our kids are not in any direct line of sight when it comes to the main entrance of the school. During the day, the double doors downstairs that lead you from the main foyer into our building are locked. We do have a security person there. They have a mechanism to allow guests to come in once they've gone through proper protocols, and they can then enter the building. The second floor also has limited access. When you leave here, you see two silver doors that go into the main part of the building. That is also on and off throughout the day, so anybody trying to come in will be slowed down if they try to gain access to the second floor. We talked about room 251, which is one of our main areas, the restaurant inside. We have an administrator who actually lets every child in from the bus. Now, before the doors were open at 7:15, now the door is locked at all times. Someone physically has to follow our mechanism to allow entry into our building. We have someone at door 41, as the kids are coming in either by drop-off, or they're driving in, coming down that staircase. There is someone physically there that has to unlock the door at all times for every kid. We have upped with Mr. Rebello and the other administrators' assistants the dealing with IDs. The kids are coming in and they're flashing some IDs. We need for them to understand that that is an important part of what we do. We need them to demonstrate they belong here. We've already put steps into place moving forward to be able to differentiate IDs as the need may be, and I don't want to give up too much information, but we'll be moving in a different direction next year so that we can clearly and quickly identify who belongs and who doesn't belong. Really anecdotally, a couple of years ago, a graduate left us in June, thought it would be brilliant to put on his diamond ID and come back in September just for giggles, and we picked him out thankfully because we recognized his face, but outside of that, it would have been difficult. We had his ID on him, he was in and out. So we're putting different actions into place to make sure things like that don't happen. Any direct questions as far as the day-to-day stuff? If you drop off your kids in the morning, you'll probably start to see some of those things take place. It's just a much more secure feel right now. Again, understanding what we do and how we do it. And there are so many access points to this building. They have been slimmed down significantly. Good.
Do you use the camera system, do you have someone monitoring it during the day, or is it just used after?
In the assistant principal's office, there are certain points that are live. They're live feeds. If you're asking if we have somebody who sits there and just watches it, no. Typically, if there is something that happens, Officer Riley is usually the first. We also have our IT people who have access and can get us information very quickly. Just a couple of other things. Mr. Fair was talking about somebody using an ID next year. We had a student who was ill, and that isn't funny in and of itself, but the fact is she was okay. But when we went to go, see who it was to call in to get the parents there, she had somebody else's ID on. And the reason we knew this is that Mr. Ferreira knew who the student was. So after she convalesced and was okay, we had a come to Jesus talk with her about using somebody else's ID and the problems that can happen as a result of something like that. So, we can do whatever we can structurally, however, but there are really things that have to come from.
I think the problem over here for the active shooting is not the person coming outside, inside to do something bad. Sometimes it's both the students inside, they have guns and things like that. I think the concern is that's more on that point. How are we going to see if the kid brings a gun inside the school, inside the backpack or something like that? I think the worst problem is that point, not the different person coming inside.
Well, we have to.
Like that.
Your point is well taken. Thank you for the segue. I really appreciate it. There's a number of different ways of looking at this. One of the things when I went to the Durfee safety discussion with Dr. Malone, what was mentioned by one of the people in the crowd was clear backpacks for all students. And I thought that was an incredibly good suggestion. So that's something that this administrative team is looking at. But the segue that I'm speaking of about what you said, because you're absolutely right, is that is probably a greater threat in some cases, especially if it's a disgruntled student or whatever. I think a couple of things that we need to think about in terms of how we deal with this is that, first of all, the communication between not only the administration and the teachers here, and I think I can say this is exceptional, but the students have access to every administrator here. We're out in the hallways, and, you know, I'm very proud of the fact that my administrative team knows the students, in many cases by name, which is amazing in a school of 1,400. We have the luxury or the punishment, depending on how you look at it, of being a one-school district where we live here. So we're out in the hallways, and we're always, dealing with the students. Mr. Lazaro is the director of cooperative education. He knows almost the whole senior class because they all want jobs, and they have to go through him. But Hank and Mrs. Miller have put together a team that does public relations for us. So when we have an event here, these kids actually do public relations for us. They're the front people who tell people about our school. But they're also the heartbeat of what's going on. They know on the street level what is happening here at the school. So they have no problem going to Mr. Gazzaro and saying, look, I'm hearing that something is going on. It's extremely important to have those connections and have people that trust you. Getting back to Dr. Malone and Mr. Pacheco at Durfee, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I got a text from Mrs. Pacheco, who I introduced earlier. She informed me of the poster that went out about Durfee, I think it was Henry Lord, Talbot, and Diamond Regional. So that immediately led to a call to Officer Riley, and then, Officer Riley's a former police department. So from an intra-city point of view, we have a real good communication. Still, however, I think the bigger issue is what's going on internally with our kids. What's going on with them? What I mean by that is, why is it that they do not feel connected? And I think, this is where we've worked very hard on what's called social emotional learning. And so, I'm going to have Mrs. Hetzler, who is our adjustment counselor, come up and say a few words about some of the things that are going on, at the guidance level in an effort to, and again, I've got Mrs. Miller with her, she's operating the camera, and she's been told, make sure you get my good side, which is none of them, Just what's happening.
Before we transition into that, I have a quick suggestion, and I know you've solicited suggestions from teachers, and this is something that I haven't put forward yet, and I don't know if someone already has. But here at Diman, we have a lot of assemblies in the auditorium. Kids know ahead of time if there's going to be a group, a large group, whether it's the entire sophomore class or the entire junior class. If students are looking for a mass casualty, they have the opportunity to plan something days out. Is there any way that you would consider switching over our assemblies to a confidential, teacher-only no basis so that we can plan and we know when there's an assembly happening, but the sophomores don't know that they're going to be told to report to the auditorium at a certain time on a certain day?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. One of the things that Mrs. Torres talked about was the fact that we have solicited our teaching staff, because again, everybody's coming from a different perspective. So we've got a lot of really good suggestions from teachers about, things that we can do to improve security. That is fantastic as long as we can keep the confidentiality on that. And that's, again, there's a critical piece to that, is that, if we were to do something like that, that would have to be understood that this is not to be shared with students. So.
Well, I know if you click on the school calendar, it'll show assemblies. This one's taking place in the auditorium 5 days out, 3 months out. So I'm wondering if maybe we should get away from broadcasting when there's an entire class assembly.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. Again, Mr. Ferrer is the principal of the school, and he's responsible for the calendar. And again, this was to keep our staff, aware of what's going on. Because again, when you're teaching, there's nothing worse than finding out that, wait a minute, I've got a test plan, I've got an assessment plan. We have an assembly here, so we put that out in an effort to improve communication. Unfortunately, these are the things that we have to consider now. So I think your suggestion is a pretty good one, but again, ultimately, Mr. Ferrero will take a look at that, and really, it's actually a pretty good suggestion. With that said, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Hetzler, who's really, been at the forefront of the social emotional piece, which is, by the way, part of our strategic plan. both at the district and at the school level. So, Mrs. Hetzko, if you wouldn't mind.
It is a district and a school goal right now to develop a social emotional learning. We've had a lot of trainings with staff in terms of understanding mental health conditions, all different pieces, but at the core of all of it is this relationship building piece that we speak of. And Mr. Robin can't say enough about the kids who have come forward to report any kind of information going on. They've been tremendous, and I think a lot of that has to do with the relationship building that's been taking place. So we do have a social emotional learning committee. We're constantly working on these types of things. We've also been analyzing our health curriculum and looking at ways we can infuse some of these really important pieces into different subjects, especially health class where it seems to fit the best, but where can we be putting it at all grade levels, just to kind of build, again, the social emotional piece. We do have a handout, and these are just some quick tips. A lot of information out there is more geared toward kids who have actually been through the trauma, have been through the shooting, but this kind of gives a lot. I kind of like the back page in terms of just how much access to give kids to the media. So kids kind of get really hooked on this, and they're watching it, and they're watching it, and they're watching it, and this can be some trauma that starts happening when you're exposed to it that much, even if it's through a television screen. So I think that's a really important piece. Any questions about kind of more of the social emotional stuff going on? We are working very closely with our outside providers as well. So if someone you know who has a child here is struggling with this or anything else, we work very closely with the other community, with all the community agencies in the area. We're able to refer fairly quickly to get counseling either during the school day here, if it's appropriate, or outside of the school, as well as other services. So if anything comes up, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can set you up with anything.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Bernie, do you have anything you'd like to share with the crowd at all?
I just want to say that we appreciate what Diman has done for the Voc Police Department. We work hand in hand. We're always listening to what the school department and Diman has to say. We share ideas back and forth. We don't let that out. We don't give that out to the public as to what our plans are, what we want to do, what we should do. Try to keep that as quiet as possible so that we can control things should everything go wrong. And it's important for us to work together. We do that. We're very happy for all police department and Diman. Of always, well, obviously for 25 years, I believe. Anyway, we've worked hand in hand, and everything has gone very, very well for us. But I'm here to take any questions. If anybody has any questions, I don't know if I can answer them in detail, but I can give you a brief if you do need something. I do know that if at the rallying point, if there is some type of an emergency that takes place, it's going to be important, not only to the police and to the school department, and you as well, but if everybody goes to the rallying point, should there be an emergency, you start taking your kids away. This is where the school department is going to lose track of who's who, where are they, how can we account for them, where are we going to find them. If the kids start disappearing, we're going to start losing control over this. And I think that maybe a little bit more conversation about this as we move along as to how we need to control this to make sure that everybody is okay, safe all the time, and that we can be sure that you get your children back at the right time when the school decides to release them.
Does anybody have any questions for Lieutenant Bernier?
That whole threat thing, has that been squashed?
Is that Durfee?
Well, the one for Durfee and
The subsequent one?
yes.
They are still under investigation, and it's a little difficult to elaborate on it because it is with the internet, and there are other entities, other agencies that are involved. So we feel comfortable with where we are right now. I don't know if that's acceptable.
There hasn't been any talk of it. My daughter's like Gossip City, so I would have heard something. I haven't heard much about it, so it's more of a curiosity thing.
Listen, you know, it's that type of gossip that keeps us safe because we find out what's going on, and it's really important. And I can't stress this enough. First of all, the relationship Diman Regional has with Fall Police Department is incredible, and you know we're going to continue that relationship. And I just kind of want to talk about something that they bring to the table that, quite frankly, isn't understood sometimes by the public in general. There are different members of the community that tend to be very insular. It's very difficult to break them. And in a vocational school where you need to have teachers and students who are talking to one another, especially learning a technical trade, you know, that insularity doesn't do a lot for helping to build the skills that these students need so that in their junior year, we're ready to send them out on the public. I know he's going to be upset with me for saying it, but Officer Riley has done just an exceptional job of defining the role of the school resource officer. I was vehemently opposed to having school resource officers when I first came back as an administrator. What a mistake that would have been. He has been such an unbelievable part of this in terms of bringing the relationship that we now have with the Fall Police Department and the relationship that our students have. You know, our students go to Officer Riley and let him know what's going on because they trust him, you know. I get a little jealous because he gets the most applause at graduation, but, you know, I can put my ego aside and I'll be okay with that. It's been a tremendous relationship and we're going to continue to build on this. One of the things that myself and Lieutenant Bernier have to do at some point is we're going to take a walk through the building with some of these people and see, you know, what suggestions that they can make. Because again, we can do whatever we think is best for the building as school personnel, but we're not safety people. We're not police, and we defer always to the experts, and that's why, you know, this is going to be an ongoing thing. Mr. Benavides, do you mind talking a little bit about some of the structural things that we're looking at without giving up too much information?
Well, we're looking at putting some additional doors and glass partitions and special measures to protect the glassware that we have so it would be very difficult to access through the window. And we have all of our rooms, every room has a glass plate monitor, which is part of our security system. And both detectors and glass plate, which it registers the frequency when you wake up. So if someone smacks the window, the alarm goes off. So we're moving forward with a lot of initiatives and bringing us into much safer.
Yeah, sorry. Does the doors have a system or mechanism to shut down, lock down? If active shooter comes on the hallways and goes fast to fast and shoot anybody, does the doors shut off when the alarm system comes out?
I'd love to talk with you about that when that camera is on. Fair enough? Okay, thank you. Yes?
Should something happen in school, or a lockdown, does the Fall River Police Department have a way of getting it, say, oh, outside door is now blocked? Do
Yes.
they have a way to?
They do. They do. Officer Riley, first of all, is on campus at all times.
Right, but he might be a different part of the.
Right. We'll get him. I promise you. We do have a box for both the fire department and the police department.
Each classroom is a locker?
Well, interesting enough. Okay, so, you know, again, I want to be very careful about what I say while the camera is on. We have a school that was built in 1968, you know, so we're going to be celebrating our 50th year. That is fantastic. We graduated over 60,000 graduates. We're very proud of that. But in terms of making this a modern building is a very difficult challenge. Just some of the things that Mr. Benavides has spoken to you about. I don't think I'm overestimating that. We're looking at somewhere about at least $40,000. Isn't that correct? Okay, and that doesn't scratch the surface of the things that we want to do. And that's why we're going to be going to our legislators. I'm going to go to our delegation saying, is there any money out there that you can help us with in terms of retrofitting the school? I mean, obviously, if we were lucky enough to get into, you know, a new school, that would be one of the major considerations we'd have, because part of the MSBA process is to put together a building committee. And I can assure you that we would have, as a top priority, safety and security, especially being a technical school, because again, the hope is not only are we going to have a restaurant that serves the public, but as a matter of fact, I didn't even introduce her yet, but Mrs. Torres, who came late to the show, now she's going to have to pay and talk for a few seconds to you about some of the things that we are thinking about offering with the you know, possibility of a new school. Mrs. Torres, can you talk about that, please, for a few seconds?
Good evening. A couple of things that we're looking at doing. One of the, for me, only because I've been here for 20 years, and my dream has always been to have this. We want to build a health center. We want to have a health center as part of our new building. It's going to do a couple of things. It's going to service the rising mass health population for dental need, and also the shortage of dentists that provide that service for the community. So with the community center, with that health center, we'll be able to service our own students as well as members of the community. And with the crisis we have with mental illness and social and emotional issues with so many students, we're also going to be looking at having someone here potentially from the Department of Mental Health so that we can provide students with social and emotional counseling and services for our students. But those two pieces together, creating that health center, will service the community and it will service our students as well. So it's going to be tremendous for them. We're also looking at building a simulation lab, having a simulation lab where academics and the health service cluster would be able to integrate using state-of-the-art, technology. So it's really exciting. Could be, what we're going to be doing.
And again, part of the reason we're mentioning this is that anything that the public, thank you by the way, Mrs. Jones, anything the public has to access, quite frankly, you've got to separate from the school proper. So in the design of new school buildings, what they do is they separate that completely so that there is no access for the public to get into the school proper. So again, as we go through the process, we're going to continue to talk about these things. Again, Mrs. Chavez talked about, partnering with the Department of Mental Health. One of the things that we're working on very hard is getting rid of the stigma of mental health and the issues that surround that. There was a time where people would be afraid or embarrassed to say that, they need somebody to talk to or that, things are not going well for them. And it's not just for our students, but adults are in that situation too. I mean, we've all been through it, you lose somebody in your life, and you're still having to come in and perform. And, this is where that partnership would not only help with the staff proper and the students proper, but also provide the services or connections or networks to the services that they could certainly use. Another area that we are really looking at in terms of security is after school and other things that we're doing. So I have our assistant principal, Mr. Andrew Ribello here, and he's going to talk about some of the protocols that he's put into place for Saturday school and credit recovery. Mr. Ribello, do you mind?
Yep, so for Saturday school, we're going to have 2 teachers assigned every week, no matter how many kids are coming that Saturday. We're also going to equip those teachers with walkie-talkies to have access to other administrators in the building, as well as phone numbers for administrators and Fall River Police Department, as well as Officer Ryder.
And again, part of that is that we're open for business 6 to 7 days a week. If you play for a team, we're extremely proud of our cheerleaders. Sunday they participated up at Whitman Hanson. They came in 3rd place and they will be moving on, and we're very proud of them, but that means they have to have access to the building on Sunday. So the building is, again, we're looking at a building that we have open 7 days a week, and we think it's important. We think it's important for the kids to be here. We think it's important for them to be participating in the many things that we want to offer. But we still have the challenge of making sure that it is a safe environment. So a couple of things that we did was, first of all, on the weekends, the school committee agreed to funding a utility person on Saturday and Sunday, who was here starting at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So he can let them in right off the bat, so people are not coming in, because sometimes, it gets a little tricky coming in if you're not used to working with things. Not everybody is particularly great at disarming an alarm pad. So having somebody there is really important. And again, as Mr. Ribello said, by virtue of the fact that, the Saturday school is going to have 2 people there, 2 ways, to be opening the lines of communication. Again, we have a school nurse here on the weekend for MCAS remediation. We think that is exceedingly important. So, again, there are a lot of things that we have to consider. We have night school here. Night school is an absolute nightmare in terms of security because, again, they were coming in from different doors and just accessing the shops directly. We put a stop to that completely. You come in by the main entrance. That's where you come in by. So when I say this is an evolving process, it really is an evolving process. And as we find things that are wrong, we hit them up and we try and make some changes in order to, again, make the place more secure, so.
Mr. Robin, if I may, just one additional point. When students enter the school, I think what Diman does is a great job is always having eyes on students. We have a very visible administration, meaning during transition times, we're all in the hallway. Teachers here do a great job of being in the hallway, having eyes on kids, and that's one thing that is great here is the amount of communication between teachers and administration and students. So additional to that, we've been in discussions of after school, right? We always want to know where our kids are. We always want to have eyes on our students. So a practice after school may start at 4 o'clock. What are those students doing between 2:28 and 4 o'clock? We've been in communications as administratively about occupying the cafeteria with some educators and having students report there until their practice, opposed to hanging out in certain spots of the building. So just to go to your point, we always have eyes on our students. We have great communication. That's something that we're going to continue to develop going forward.
Thank you. Now, the guy who's been having a heart attack is Mr. Benavides over here, because again, the building that's 49 years old, everything from the phone system to the intercom system, it's old. And quite frankly, we're rushing through the building to make sure, because while it's okay to take time to change certain things when it comes to safety and security, you don't have the luxury of time. So his staff has been working like crazy to try and make sure that everything is working. And what we've been telling staff is let us know immediately if something isn't working. Because again, in a building this old, I mean, we have 47 doors, 48 external doors. That doesn't include the internal doors. The internal doors have to work if you have a lockdown. Because otherwise, obviously, somebody could just access that. So, again, we've got a lot of things that we're doing right now because no parent wants to hear, well, it's okay that, you couldn't close the door when the active shooter was in here. They don't want to hear it. They want to know that it's working. So we're working hard on stuff like that, and we'll streamline the reporting on this, especially things like doors, intercoms, and phones, because those are the lines of communication that are needed in order for people to stay safe. Can't stress it enough. Please speak to your kids. They are our front line of defense. Mrs. Pacheco sent that text to me about the poster. I had probably 4 emails from students. I don't want to bother you, most of them stop. They're never bothering me. I like the fact that students, tell us. I wasn't the only administrator that got emails. They all get it. And the reason is, again, we build relationships. We need to even strengthen those relationships more. And that's why, again, I can't stress enough the fact that, talk to them during dinner. Talk to them when you're driving them somewhere. If something doesn't sound right, let us know. You are the front line of defense. And when things go south for somebody emotionally, it happens quickly. So, don't hesitate in giving us a call, leaving I can guarantee you this administrative team checks its emails on the weekends. We're checking it at night because we're not right. Something's wrong with us. But we have a passion for education. We have a passion for your kids, and I think we're on fire about our kids. When I went to the cheerleading competition, I got to keep sharing the story because it's so unbelievable. The music for one of the teams that they were competing against went out. So they were in the middle of their routine, and the music went out, and all of a sudden I could hear the kids in the back counting out. And I know nothing about cheerleading, but I found out later that counting out helps them without the music continue their routine. I was thinking to myself, wow. That is really a special group of young kids. And that, that's not an aberration. That's pretty much a standard for our kids. The other thing I want to mention to you is that there is some talk about a nationwide school walkout. I believe, what's the date?
March 14th.
March 14th. And schools are trying to grapple with how they're going to handle it. This school is bringing in the leadership, the school student leadership, and we're going to talk with them. We are vehemently opposed to any type of a walkout, and not because we want to squelch their voices. It's not what we want to do. But if we're locking all the doors in this place in order to keep kids safe, the last thing we need is for 1,400 students to be out in the street in the perimeters with everybody in the world knowing that on March 14th, there's going to be a nationwide walkout. It's the last thing we need. We can't protect them once they leave the building like that. We're going to be straight. And I don't want to speak for the Fall Police Department, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to be very busy on that day. So, you know, this is an organization that's already strapped in terms of bodies. So we're asking you as parents to talk to your kids. We're going to come up with what we think is going to be a very positive way to have the students, you know, express through their leadership, you know, the way it's supposed to be done. There's nothing wrong with protest provided it's peaceful, which aligns with the First Amendment to the Constitution. We want our students to be globally aware. We want them to understand. The other thing, we had a number of students who came up to me, and on March 24th, there was supposed to be a scheduled demonstration of students up in Boston. And they asked, can we go to that? And will the school help us with that? Anytime our students want to do something in a peaceful and you know, global way, we're going to absolutely say yes. We're not going to do it, however, until we find out that the Boston police have issued a permit for that protest. Because the last thing we're going to do is drive students out to a protest that hasn't been given approval and have bad things happen to them as they're doing that. So, you know, again, we're asking for parents to please talk to your kids. Walking out is, you know, again, it's a bad move. It's a bad move from a security point of view. And, you know, quite frankly, it's incredibly hypocritical that, you know, we're protesting that, you know, we don't want to be shot. At the same time, we're going to walk out in an area where none of them can be protected. Again, we're a thinking school. Our students are thinkers, and that's why we're going to bring our leadership together, and we're going to come up with a student solution to this, not a top-down solution, a student solution to it.
Will you be opposed, to, let's say the students still decide to walk out, will you be opposed if the parents show up to help out?
I would rather, again, I'd rather speak with Officer Riley about that, and again, the idea is, you know, again, we're working hard to keep students in this building so that they're safe. So by virtue of the fact that they're walking out into, this is a 27-acre campus, you know, and it's really hard to control the perimeter. So we're asking parents to speak with the kids, and, you know, again, let us come up with a solution where it is controlled but meaningful. I don't want just kids leaving. There's no value to that. You know, most people would think, well, they just want the day off. You know, you know. Let's do something that has meaning. And again, we don't want to get into the political quagmire of the left versus the right. You know, the protest is simple. Please, let's find a solution to people shooting our kids. And I think that's not a right or left discussion. It's a human discussion. You know, I think we have to put our politics aside and figure out what are we going to do to try and fix this problem, because it hasn't gone away. I thought Sandy Hook would be the end. I thought when you shot 6-year-olds, somewhere along the line, that would be the thing that would move the needle, and it did not, which is stunning to me. So I'm hoping that, you know, again, the momentum from the young people is going to have an effect that can be long-lasting. But again, I don't want something stupid out there, to be frank with you. I don't want, you know, behavior that doesn't lead to a solution. Our students are smart enough, and I expect them to be. So we're going to go to the leadership of the school, the students, and, you know, talk about what they might want to do. We've got a great leadership team here, especially at the senior level, and see what they have to say. Mr. Ferry, you want to talk about that?
If I can add, just to piggyback a few minutes, we tell our students beginning of every school year, and we try to echo throughout. We do have a tip line through Diman's website, email, anonymous email. Not sure if parents are completely aware of it. We probably get 50 to 100, usually around bullying and situations of that kind. Now, a lot of kids at this age, they have trouble, especially if they're friendly, they know some people that are talking about different things. They don't necessarily want to come out, be ostracized. So as parents, you should be aware that they can go online, you can go online. right to our website. It's an anonymous link. You can report anything to us. It comes instantaneously to myself and other administrators, and we get on that right away. So in case you didn't know, or your kids didn't mention to you, you can reiterate that as you communicate with them. Again, it is anonymous. They don't have to identify themselves. It comes in right away to us. It's instantaneous, and we usually jump on that right away. I'm pretty sure if Mr. Riley has it, I have it. I know Mr. Rebello has it now, and we can move on stuff almost instantaneously, especially with all of the electronic capability we have here in the building.
But if the kids goes to, sorry,
It's okay, go ahead.
if the kids goes to the teacher, it's the same, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
It's anonymous at the same way, and
Oh, absolutely. Student confidentiality is critical, but they're, as teenagers, occasionally those mindsets are, I don't want to be caught in the middle of this. So we put that option out there to our students. Anything that they deem as uncertain, unsure, they can go through that measure through our website, send that out, and it comes right to
And
you.
if I can, and I'm hard on this one, this administrative team will rather lose than roll over on a kid, because they need to be able to trust us when they come to us. And so this administrative team, I can speak to everyone, they will always take confidentiality as a priority. Because again, when the kids are coming there trusting that they're doing what's best for the school, we need to protect them as well.
Ms. Starks?
sorry.
Mr. Robin, can I just ask a question of the Fargo Police Department?
Sure.
Okay, I'm just wondering if the Fargo Police Department still uses the shot finder around the city to identify when shots have been fired in different neighborhoods?
Yeah, ShotSpotter, yes. We still use that. It is, it's still an active system. It's being improved on a regular basis as well.
Have there been any studies about possibly putting in a shot spotter finder device inside the building?
I don't know if that can be done because of because they're compartmentalized. I believe that they need to have some way of triangular location. So if you compartmentalize, I don't believe that it would work inside the building.
If I may, there is a secure dining that you will take that for us. There is a shot system like that for inside school that they can come up with it, so pretty dynamic.
In individual rooms, right? They have to be in every room.
The whole school is mapped out, and it basically tells you where the shot has been fired. Quite dynamic, and you watch the video. Amazing.
And again, all of this, the difficult part is, it's money, it's sort of like when somebody is looking at a house and says, oh, well, could we take that wall out and, could we do this? And with money in town, you can do anything, absolutely. Unfortunately, we have neither right now. So, but we are working at every chance we get to try and get alternative resources to try and support these things. And again, we'll be speaking with our legislative delegation because ultimately we need their support because that's what the money is going to come in. We're also looking at grants to try and see if we can get some grant money for this as well. So there's a lot of things going on here, and I just want you to know that this administration takes the safety of your children very seriously because they're our children. We own them as well. You have them, you give them birth, you raise them, but for 4 years, they're ours. And we want them to be very successful. Graduation is a great time because we know that most of our students are going to go on and their lives are going to be better than they even were before. And that's the ultimate job of this team. This is what we have to do. So, does anybody have any questions? Again, we didn't want to talk too, we wanted to have a sort of flow of the conversation. Aaron, liaison is here. Would you like to share anything with us at this point?
No, I think it's amazing. I'm waiting for the camera to shut off. I know.
So, I mean, if no one has anything else at this point, I want to first of all thank you and on behalf of our administration. They could be doing a million other things. Dr. Warren could not be here tonight. She's our academic coordinator, but she's typically at all of our events, so I want to give her a shout out because she lost power over in Rehoboth, so it was a really difficult challenge for her. But again, after we shut the cameras off, if there are any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them for you. So again, thank you very much.